Back now to the year 2014, and the ANC has to contend with corruption scandals, poverty, high unemployment levels and internal bickering. I'm joined now by political analyst Ralph Mateja to talk about what we can expect when President Jacob Zuma delivers his January 8th statement in Mbombela at the weekend. Ralph, thank you for joining us. Welcome to Morning News today. Is it looking good for the ANC?
Well, they're on the defense. It can't be. It's not looking good at all. They're coming at the back foot of pressure from the opposition parties. And I think that South Africans are beginning to critically evaluate the ANC as a governing party. The honeymoon is over. People want delivery, and also people want accountability on the side of government. So I think the tone is such that the ANC has to explain itself further. This is different from the previous elections where the ANC was just expected to proactively outline what they are going to do, but now they have to own up to some of the challenges that they have confronted in government, and at the same time they have to talk about what they are going to do differently. And also the perception and the reality about corruption in South Africa is quite high, and they have to address that just so that it can be clear, at least before the eyes of the voters, that this is the party that can still be trusted to carry on.
Now we have President Jacob Zuma saying things like the ANC will rule forever. He has said similar things in the past using biblical terms. We won't go into those. But is it a realistic outlook for him to say that they will rule forever? Or are we in store for some changes? Maybe not immediately, maybe not in elections 2014, but in the next 10 years, do we see that the ANC probably, that term of rule will surely be shortened?
Well, certainly, gradually, if you look at the numbers, the margins are declining each and every elections. Even if you look previously in the local government elections, on aggregate nationally, they've lost something like 3%, 3.1% of the decline of the margins. I'm expecting them to have also the decline of the margins this year. And also because the ANC has had quite a high share of the votes, naturally it has to decline. It has to stabilize to get below the 60%. And the idea that, or the expressions that they're going to rule forever, I don't know what does that mean. And I don't think such kind of a statement actually, it's meant to be critically evaluated. I think that is just President Jacob Zuma wanting to appear much stronger and also wanting to talk to the core voters or the core constituents of the ANC that we are still looking strong. If you are really looking good, I don't think you have to make such kind of a statement.
We have, I mean, just listening to South Africans' comments and their sentiments, television, radio, over the past couple of weeks and months, actually, you have a lot of South Africans almost in disbelief saying, why is he still our president? And I suppose that is a question with all of this surrounding President Jacob Zuma, obviously with the unhappiness within his own party as well. Why is he still president? And is there a chance, any chance, that before elections that he might be recalled?
There is no doubt that he has presided over maybe the most difficult or turbulent period within the ANC. We have seen divisions within the ANC. The provinces actually, look across the provinces. Some of them are even battling to put together provincial conferences. We have seen the conference being postponed over and over in Limpopo. Internal divisions are very deep within the ANC, but not only within the party itself, also within the tripartite alliance as well. We have had NUMSA pulling out, saying that they are no longer going to campaign for the ANC. But I think one thing that need to be noted is that President Jacob Zuma has mastered the internal party politics very well. If you compare him with President Thabo Mbeki, you realize that President Jacob Zuma has got a firm grip of how the party works internally, while President Thabo Mbeki, when he was recalled, he had a firm grip on government but had actually lost touch with the internal party wrangles. That is why it was so easy to recall President Thabo Mbeki. I don't foresee any opportunity or any chance that President Jacob Zuma could be recalled before or even next year. That's just not going to happen, because he understands very well how to maintain that control or how to maintain that firm grip within the party. He fully understands and appreciates internal party politics. As much as there are divisions, his power base remains quite solid.
So what are we saying? That he does have the people within there who protect him?
Within the party, he does have the people to protect him. And you have other provinces where you could say that there are chances of mutiny that could arise. But unfortunately, each and every province that you could say have got a problem with maybe his leadership, or where you could say a mutiny could arise, there are division within those specific provinces. But the provinces that support him, they are quite solid.
Now, we've seen the likes of Pravin Gordhan, who has kind of expressed that he might not want to stay on. We've seen the Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe, who we see sort of champing at the bit that, you know, he doesn't want to be here any longer. You get the feeling that he doesn't want to be in government any longer. If these sort of senior members of the ANC were to say, call it a day and say, okay, I'm done now, you know, in government, what would that do to the ANC and whoever's left behind? Mm-hmm. Do we put our faith in those who are left behind as well?
Well, it undermines the legitimacy of those who will be left behind. I mean, I've been following closely the utterances by Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan that he might not be available, although not giving sufficient reason why. He mentioned the question of age and also the timing of the statement around December when nobody's actually looking. And I think that the Treasury is quite a senior, a very serious portfolio in government where if you see change at Treasury, you start to ask yourself, is the ship in the right direction?
Should we worry as South Africans as well?
But there might be a sense of people who don't feel so much comfortable to be seen to be at the center of power within the ANC at this point of time. It is their views to decide where they are going to go, whether they're going to align themselves with civil society outside or they will just stay within the fringes of power within the ANC.
Now we're looking at the EFF. And we're looking at just all the bantering that was happening yesterday. If you were watching social media very carefully, do you see the EFF as being starting to be a force to be reckoned with this year?
It is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, first and foremost, the EFF comes in at the time when the ANC's most trusted wing that usually help the party to connect with the younger people is no longer there. That is the ANC Youth League. It's almost non-existent effectively. And the EFF has come in banking on trying to get the vote of young people within the ANC, but also beyond that, to also try to entice younger people outside the ANC. Young people are to some extent disgruntled. They are a fertile ground for any kind of a new political project.
And even looking at matriculants now, saying you're not going to get jobs. It's only going to be, what, 30% of you who probably get into varsity and might get a job. Yeah.
Certainly, and the EFF has actually calculated on that space, and they're coming up with their political projects. Certainly, it is a force to be reckoned with. And I think the ANC is very much concerned. If you look at what has been expressed on Twitter yesterday, the possibility of EFF getting together with NUMSA, if that happens, that is going to destabilize the Labour vote severely. And I think that will significantly affect the margins of the ANC. There is no doubt that the ANC is going to suffer on the margins. It's just a question of to what extent. Are we talking 3%? Are we talking 8%? Are we talking more? That will depend on the extent to which the opposition, including the EFF, mobilizes.
So just a quick prediction from you, Ralph, in terms of elections 2014. We know the ANC will probably, yes, will still win, but like you say, not by the majority. But the death of Nelson Mandela, will that sort of get its sympathy votes just for this year?
It's going to be difficult for the ANC to maintain the connection of where the party is now and then the legacy of President Nelson Mandela. And one thing most interesting about that is that the legacy of Nelson Mandela does not necessarily belong within the ANC. There are other political parties that are contesting that. South Africa is a diverse nation, so everybody else has got their vision as to what it means to amplify or to emulate the legacy of President Nelson Mandela.
Definitely. All the world will be watching. Thank you very much. That's political analyst Ralph Mateja. More news and sport coming up after a quick break.
Know more about your world. eNCA.com.